Welcome back. Well, the taste of sweet victory is still on the tongue of many Nigerians after some have called a narrow escape from a hefty penalty of about $11 billion of a failed 2010 deal to develop a gas processing plant in the country. Well, we cannot say for sure that P&ID case is over because I think they still have a window to appeal the judgment. But there are many lessons to draw from the scenario. That's why we're discussing that with Professor Labisi Akinkugbe. He is associate professor joining us virtually from Canada. Prof, good to have you on the show. Good morning.
Morning.
Yeah, so Nigeria has narrowly escaped, at least for now. We don't know what can happen if it could be appealed, but I hear there's a window for appeal. Is that window still open?
Well, the window is still there. Thank you very much. And you know, this particular case itself has not ended because there's a short room that the respondent has asked for. To allow them to also address the court on the issue of how the damages concerning this particular case should be decided.
So what are some of the lessons from the judgment, at least, that we have now? There are issues of corruption, lack of transparency, bribery, and all of that. What are some of those lessons that Nigeria and the world can learn from this P&ID case?
Thanks a lot, Tini. That's a very good question. And I think the place to start is to say that a lot of scholars, myself inclusive, have written about the dangers of arbitration. You know, it is often heralded as the alternative to the long processes that we have in court. It is effective, and so on and so forth. But investment arbitration has over time been proven, and there are empirical studies that back this, to be very challenging for what you call the host state, like Nigeria, that has the project. And so what you see the P&ID case has demonstrated is really the dangers that could go very wrong when all the facts that relate to the context around which a particular investment project has been awarded are not put before the arbitration. So to be clear, we're not saying arbitration is always bad. We're just saying at times it masks significant challenges. And one area that happens is the quantum of damages that has come up. You know, this is not the first time corruption as the basis for really undoing a particular investment project has happened. There is the World Duty Free case, which involves, you know, the Kenyan government. That's about the most popular one that has happened around 2006. But in terms of quantum, there's also the case involving Pakistan, where they have almost $11 hanging over their neck. So in terms of the lessons that we need to learn from this, you are right. You have pinpointed that oftentimes public officials are found complicit in the process of that led to their award. They sometimes just undermine the process without thinking about the public good. This is what P&ID has shown us, that there are elements that do not care about Nigeria in the government in itself. Number two is that even though the arbitrations may rule in the interest of what's called public moral order, and not allow a particular project that has been found on the basis of corruption to go on, if all the facts that are needed to prove that are not before the arbitration committee, then nothing will happen. And that's precisely what happened in this case. The arbitration went through. The award was given against Nigeria. But the truth was that the facts that were needed to really ground that were not before them. And that's what the commercial court also noted. So that's the second one. Number three is the role of expertise in the drafting of agreements. Look, Nigeria has very good top law firms. Nigeria has excellent minds as lawyers. It is surprising on a personal level, extremely worrying, but also painful that a lot of our agreements still get drafted without paying attention to or even involving some of these minds. And I know the government tries. So precisely how this one has failed the test of due process within the government, the test of ensuring that they've gone through all the steps that they need to require the quality of the agreement is really concerning. And so there's room to tighten the ropes and to ensure that there is every level of due diligence that is taken to ensure that the process that leads to the award and signing of contracts are signed. The fourth point I'll make is this. In defending these types of cases, it is also important for trust to be shown. It is a key thing that has come out of this case because a lot of the relationships got fractured along the way. And maybe, one last point that I'll put out there is this. The process that leads to award of contract has been, especially in general investment law, has also been criticized as very neo-colonial today. The whole architecture of the industry, because it really just takes a private party that elevates them above a state. So what you see happen in the P&ID case is that the only party that could have initiated, in the investment trading ones, those kind of disputes would be the private sector or the private party. And so to go back to the point I started from, investment arbitration in itself is very problematic. And there's a whole process that is being done right now to address its procedural deficits. What we have written about is that it has an unequal power structure and that there's need to address the substantive deficits of this system. Unfortunately, in the name of investment flows, a lot of our governments still continue to sign the type of contracts and treaties that lead to this kind of arbitration.
Well, that's a whole lot, Prof, that you have raised there. And I just have, things coming out of my mind to say, would you say this deficit in our contract initiation and signing process, would you say it's intentional by some individuals for personal gains? In other words, should we say that the system should be upgraded, but maybe some people are just looking the other way because it's favoring, them?
Well, thank you. I think, we are describing to me what I would call corruption again. And I think whether we like it or not, corruption is a hydra-headed monster. It is a really difficult one to deal with. In my own writing, I have, argued that some of the most difficult forms of corruption to deal with is what is called those created by informal networks, social networks in public spaces. And those really try to operate outside of the ambit of the law. They operate to try to, just avoid the nest of the law when it is cast as wide as possible. Yet the day of accountability comes. And so in terms of motivation, you do find that there are people in there clearly that places their own personal gains over that of the nation. And a number of the witnesses we have seen that have now or under prosecution by the EFCC really did Nigeria bad. In fact, the judge noted at the end that this is the pain that these peoples would have put, the millions of Nigerians through, that they would have elevated their own personal gains for very small amounts of money over that of the nation. So you are right. There are personal motivations that have led to this type of unfortunate situation that we found ourselves. But we need to also clean the system. We need to drain the system of those kind of elements. We need to think of how we ensure that when it comes to due process, in the award of significant contracts that have huge implication for the wellness of the country, we ensure that every hands are on deck to check the process that has led to the award of that particular type of contract.
Well, I guess the unfortunate thing about that is you still need individuals to handle those processes. Even if we want to upgrade the system, make everything technical or digitalize it, you still need individuals who would run those things or lead those things. And if those individuals still put their personal gains ahead of the nation, then we'll end up in the same hole.
Oh yeah, that is the truth. And I do want to be, fair to Nigeria here. This is not a problem that is unique to Nigeria. I teach in Canada. There's a province called Ontario. That province right now is embroiled in a huge investigation by the federal department on account of the fact that there's an allegation that the premier has converted a Greenland area, right, for construction without due process. So there's no end to this. This really is a litmus test for us to think about how we will hold accountable our people. No technology won't do the work for us alone to deal with this. Our courts have to do their work. In some sense, it is concerning that those who are being investigated and prosecuted in the Nigerian courts are still there. As far as I know, those cases have not been completed. So, it's an overhaul of the system. We all have to look at ourselves. Again, I'm careful not to just say all the courts are not functioning. That's not the argument here. The point is, in certain cases, we do have to send strong signals out. This is a perfect example where everybody involved who's done anything that to undermine Nigeria's integrity, Nigeria's financial well-being, Nigeria's economic position should be made to face the full wrath of the law. This will lay down the real marker on which we can build seriously. We have institutions. The FCC did significant level of investigation. We have the ICPC. They can do their work as well. So this is not a call for more institutional establishment. It is a call to actually implement the letter of the laws we have. And in that process, both the executive and the judiciary have their work in this context to do.
Yeah, they do have their work. We hope they do their work. Thank you so much for your time this morning, Professor Olabisi Akingbe, Associate Professor at Dalhousie University over there in Canada. And thank you for sharing that happening in Ottawa with us, because sometimes we do think it's just the blacks that are involved in corruption.
Thank you very much. It's not just us. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you, you too, Prof.